cousins. Tonight we're having burger and chips. Well, I'm having burger and chips. The wife's not having the chips. That's her fault. That's her prerogative. But we're not just having ordinary burgers and chips. Come on, we are the Guzzling Gourmet. We're going a little bit more upmarket. For a start, our burger bun are these black Ciabatta burger buns made earlier. Okay. Dusted with a light sprinkle of sesame seeds. So that's going to be our bun. But our burger is not a proper burger. Well, it's a proper burger, but it's not what most people think of as a proper burger, because we're going to be using halloumi cheese. Okay, we're going to have perhaps the usual trimmings in it. Well, I say usual, it depends where you eat it, doesn't it? But we're going to have a few sort of salad leaves in it. Some revolting people have slices of tomato. We will not be having a slice of tomato. We're going to put some slices of gherkin in it. And we're going to spice it up with a bit of a spicy ketchup. But we haven't got any spicy ketchup, so we're going to make that. So, I've made the buns. We've got to fry our halloumi. We've got to make our chips, and we're making them in the air fryer. What else have we got to do? Oh, obviously, I'm going to make my ketchup, and then just assemble everything. So, tonight, we're having black ciabatta burgers with a crispy coated halloumi and air fryer chips. Oh, sorry, air fryer fries. Right, I've got a large Maris Piper here and I've already peeled it. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to slice up about... Actually, I'm making more chips rather than fries. So I'm just slicing this about a 1/4 inch thick, and then actually probably a bit less than a 1/4 inch thick, and then I'm trying to cut them into a regular size because obviously we want them to cook the same, and I'm just for now putting them into water because we don't want them going brown. Now, fries are fries. I'm not going to bother telling you anything about fries. But I've mentioned about we're having burgers. Now, what is a burger? Well, a hamburger, or as it's sometimes called, a burger, is typically a meat patty of ground meat, typically beef, but it can be other meats or non-meats, as we're having tonight. Might argue ours tonight isn't, strictly speaking, we're certainly not vegan, because halloumi cheese is made using rennet, so that means it's definitely not vegan. So I've got them in cold water. I'm just going to shove them in the sink and get rid of these trimmings, and I'm just going to rinse that. We want to get all the starch off. Okay, now the fry's going to take about 20 minutes in the air fryer. Well, they bloody well, it better do. So I've got to try and get everything timed right for cooking my cheese. My buns are cooked, the trimmings are done, but I think before we do any cooking, I'll just leave them soaking, and we're going to make our spicy ketchup to put in our burger. Well, I'm just saying about hamburgers. Some people argue that they're called hamburgers after the city of Hamburg in Germany. There is no real sort of proof or evidence that that's the case. They did, however, possibly originate in Germany in one form or another. Ooh, leaving suspense. So, for our spicy ketchup, as it were, we're going to need some ketchup. You could just use ketchup if you want. Boring. boring. So I've probably got way too much there. But the prime ingredient is going to be ketchup. Now I'm going to spice this up with, how the bloody hell do you pronounce it? S-R-I-R-A-C-H-A, Sriracha, chili sauce. Okay, so we're going to add some of this chili sauce. Now, this is something that it's up to you how much you want to add. Okay. Now, since it's only me and the wife eating this, I'm going to use the same spoon for doing both. No, not getting the chilli kick yet. So, I'm going to add a bit more. The only drawback to using this is that it's quite watery, as you can see. And so as a result, it's actually making this runnier. Not that you don't, really. Let's have another little taster. Nope. I'm starting to get a little bit of it back of my throat. Starting to warm up my tongue now. I'll just have that generous extra bit. So I'll tell you about the hamburger. So, Hamburg steak in Germany was originally called frikadelle or frikadelli. I don't know how to pronounce it in German, but it was a German word. And it's been around since the 17th century, although where it originated from for that, who knows? Right, let's taste. Yeah, that's got a kick to it now. Now, what are you bloody only opening? Now I'm going to give it, a lot of this is crystallised. If that happens here, honey, warm it up. But there's enough runny bit on top. The honey will give it a little bit extra sweetness, but it also will help thicken it up a little bit. It's just a little bit more difficult to get in there. I'll have eaten all this by the time we've made it. I'll give it a little bit more. So, this frikadelle was mentioned in 1758. Edition of The Art of Cookery Made Plain and Easy, where it was, I think actually, I've used all the runny bit. Oh well. Where it referred to Hamburg, spelt H-A-M-B-U-R-G-H, sausage, suggesting it should be served roasted with toasted bread under it. It's a bit like a toasted burger bun, really. A similar snack, popular in Hamburg under the name of Rundstück or something like that, which basically means bread roll warm, in around about 1860 odd, and it was supposedly eaten by the immigrants, German immigrants, on their way to America. Let's have a look at that. Yep. I think that will do. So, I'm getting a little bit of the sweetness of the honey, definitely getting the chilli kick. To be honest, I'm not sure actually if the honey makes any real difference to the sweetness of the ketchup anyway, but anyway, there you go. Now, that's one possible origin of the hamburger. It's hot today. We've had some shitty weather filming this in July, end of July, and we've had some really hot days, and equally we've had some really shitty wet days. Today's been a hot day, and I've been baking. Right, so our next step is to prepare a coating to go on a halloumi. So I've got some maize flour here. It's actually suggesting you have a coarse ground maize flour, but I haven't got a coarse ground one. I've only got this one. Now it does give quantities, but essentially you just want enough that you're going to be able to coat it, your halloumi with. It is just a coating. Okay, so I think that will do. And then you're going to want, it seems to be that's all the ground cinnamon I've got. You're going to want a couple of tablespoons of ground coriander. So I'm just going to chuck all that in there. Okay, and then we're going to have a generous pinch or two of these Malden sea flakes, as it were. And I'm also going to add some freshly ground black pepper. And actually, not only am I going to buy some more ground coriander, I also need to get some more black pepper. So, so I'm just going to mix that together, and then that, like I say, will be our coating for our halloumi. Now you're going to we're going to fry this in oil. I've got my rapeseed oil. You can do it in olive oil, it's up to you. But I'm going to use my brand new saute pan from the Hairy Bikers. Treating myself. Saw old Si was talking about a couple of recipes that he came up with, one peri-peri chicken, and I might make that because we like peri-peri chicken, and apparently it's one of the favourites of him and Dave. So he showed us how to make it. But equally, checking out their website, they use this hexclad stuff. And if you can see that, non-stick, quite durable apparently. Although obviously you shouldn't do. Apparently you can use metal tools in there. And also it's better not to put it in the dishwasher, although it is dishwasher proof. But like a lot of these things, these non-stick coatings, you put them in the dishwasher, they don't last as long. And then you can go on Amazon or wherever and go, hey, fucking non-stick coatings that are dishwasher proof are shit. The coatings will come off. Well, it does say it's not recommended. They are dishwasher proof, but they will deteriorate quicker than hand washing them. So just bloody hand washing them. It's so fucking lazy, you lazy bastard. Oh, so sorry about the language. It's a bit hot and this beer ain't cold. So I'm drinking it, trying to cool myself down, and really I should have fridged it. Anyway. Okay. So, just going to chuck these on there. Now, sort of told you a little bit about the sort of origin story of the hamburger, but there's various other sort of claims to fame, as it were, as to who invented it. And then we've got one which has now been debunked. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Patterson. Thank you, Miss Patterson. If you don't get that, you haven't got a blood clue what I'm talking about. You're too old, you're too young. So, a guy called Louis Lassen, he was credited with inventing the hamburger, but it turns out that's all complete myth. He says try not to use a rude word. Now, he opened a lunch wagon in Connecticut in 1900. And the story was that one day a customer come up and says, you know, I'm in a rush, I've got, you know, I'm a businessman, blah, 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 something like that. Give me some, you know, hot steak, whatever. And he went, well, I can't even got no steak there. And I thought, we can't turn down a customer, can I? When I've dried them, I'll chuck him in there. Can't turn down a customer. Look, I've got all these trimmings from all the steak I did have. What I do, I just chop them up a bit and I just wash them all together. So it's still steak, innit? I'll squash them all together, and I'll serve that in a bun. He grilled it, put it to 2 slices of toast, and then pretty well. Whether that story is true or not, it's not a hamburger, because you don't serve a hamburger between slices of toast. But anyway, that has been debunked. That's not where it came from. Now another one was a Charlie and Nagreen. Now, Charlie, 1885, sold a meatball sandwich basically. He put 2 slices of bread and put a meatball inside it. Now, he thought, well, these would be useful because customers can walk along eating these. So they're off to work, they're off doing whatever. They can eat while they walk. And he thought, hang on, there's a lot of Germans about here, German immigrants. And he thought, I need to do something that's going to appeal to them. So he called it a Hamburg steak, thinking they'd be familiar with that. Whether that's true or not, who knows? Right, so what are we going to do with these fries now? Right, I'll put my glove on for this bit because I'm going to do a journey. So I'm going to put, well, if it decides to come off, shut it down. I've got about 1.5 tablespoons of corn flour, and we're just going to coat these fries all over in that corn flour. Right, another story about hamburger. The Bilby family say, hang about, all of that is bollocks. It was our grandpa Oscar Bilby. Except they didn't talk like that because they're American. From Tulsa. He invented the hamburger. In 1891, July the 4th, I don't know why he's talking like a northerner, like George Gourmet. He served it on his farm, and it was the first burger in a bun, a yeast bun that is, bread bun. In 1995, the governor of Tulsa, whoever he was at the time, made a proclamation that says, Tulsa is the real birthplace of the hamburger. Whether it is or not, who knows. Then, of course, there's the 1880s. And Fletcher, old Dave Davies, he was Fletcher Davis of Texas. Everybody knows him as Old Dave. He owned a lunch counter and served a burger of fried ground beef patties, with mustard and slices of Bermuda onion between 2 slices of bread, and a pickle on the side. Now, as evidence that this was true, there was a photo of Old Dave's hamburger stand from 1904 produced as evidence. Now, I'm now just going to add 1.5 tablespoons of oil. Okay. And we're now going to toss all that together to coat all those fries in oil, because remember, I might have to actually add a little bit more actually. I think I went a bit overboard on the corn flour. With the air fryer, it's about minimising the oil, although we're going to be sort of deep frying the halloumi. We're doing the, I am going to add a little bit more of that because I think I might have, like I say, been a bit too generous with the corn flour, and there's patches of these chips that aren't covered in oil. Now, during World War One, and obviously when America got involved in the fight against the Germans, Hamburg, too much association with Germany, the enemy, So they decided, well, we don't want to not eat them because we like them. So that's when they started calling them Salisbury steaks, apparently. Now, just a final note about the burgers. Now I've done that, I'm now just going to remove that glove because what I want to do is season it with salt and pepper. But I'll just about to say hamburgers are usually associated with fast food restaurants. But that's not strictly true because you can get them from sort of cheap fast food restaurants all the way up. Now, when it comes to seasoning with salt and pepper, you can add this, I think this is John Kirkwood's recipe. You can add this at a couple of different stages during the actual cooking, but I better put your hand in there then. That's why I've got to cut gloves out. I'm now just going to toss that together, give that a bit of a coating. And now my fries are ready to go in the fryer. Yeah, I was saying about, you know, now even the high-end restaurants serve gourmet burgers, a bit like I'm going to tonight. But obviously most people associate the burger or the hamburger with McDonald's, the Big Mac. It's one of the world's top-selling burgers. It's estimated 550 million are sold every year in the States. Right, that is our fries ready to go. Right, before we coat our halloumi, we need to preheat our air fryer. Now this one, I think I've said before, if you've seen that one, it depends what order these go out in, to be honest. It doesn't have a specific preheat function. But I'm going to do these all in the big door, and actually this will be a virgin fry for me. I've always used a liner, a paper liner as such, or a silicone liner. Today we're doing it in the basket. Ooh. So we're going to preheat this, and it does make a bit of noise. You do need to make sure you've got room around it, otherwise don't get up temperature, I've noticed. So at 200, we want to just wasted forks for 25 minutes. We're going to preheat that for 3 minutes. Okay. Now moved on to the wine, so don't drink all the beer because I want to save some for tomorrow. And no, I haven't drunk all that off camera. I drank most of that last night. Apart from that glass there, which I pulled out. I had that last night, I saved it for Ron. No Ron, not you Ron, later Ron. I think I've done that one already. Right, now, it's a little bit unfortunate that it's not a square block. Okay, so what I might do is make each one of these into 4. Alright? Essentially, from a 225 gram block, you're meant to slice it in half and it makes 2 burgers. Given the size of these burger rolls, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice it in half and like that as well. So, I'm just going to drain that off. Now, we're not going to dry it, but there is quite a lot of moisture in there. Okay? And the reason we're using halloumi is because we can fry it without it melting as such. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Right, before I carry on, I've done 1 block of cheese, cut it in half, sliced it in half. The preheat's done, so I'm just going to remove that. Now, remember this is a metal basket, don't put it in the counter, I've got a trivet under there. What we're going to do is, oh my god, I've stuck that in there. I'm just going to sort of spread them out a bit. We are now going to cook them. We preheated at 200. We're going to cook those at, is it 180? 190. They do have a chip setting and everything, but to be honest, you just set the temperature. They just alter the temperatures. And we're going to cook that for a total of 20 minutes. However, after 5 minutes, we're going to toss them. So I took my block of halloumi, cut it in half like that, and then I sliced it in half like that. Ooh. That's a bit weird. Now, there's green stuff in there. Now that's not unusual, okay? Because as it happens, it can be flavoured with mint. Actually, I noticed there's some in that bit there. Didn't notice that when I cut that. Halloumi is a cheese that's believed to originate from Cyprus, although the Egyptians argue it was from Egypt. And it's essentially a cheese made from sheep and goat's milk, although some people do adulterate it. I've got to keep my eye on that, so when 5 minutes is up, pull it out. Now with the air fryer, it just automatically stops the timer, you don't have to reset everything. It will restart, but for the continuing the time when you put it back in. Sheep's and ewe's milk, although especially commercial grade, does use cow's milk, but it has to be the minor amount of milk in it. Now I've put a layer of oil in there, okay, and I'm just going to heat that up because we're going to fry it in that. Now it has a very high melting point, which means I can put it in deep oil, deep fat oil. I can deep fry it in oil and it ain't going to make a melted mess everywhere. So it does tend to give it quite a firm, rubbery texture, and some people even say when you eat it, it does be a bit squeaky, but that's part of the way it's made. It's had its first 5 minute toss. So now what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put these into that mixture, and like you can see, got all that in there, and I'm hardly going to use any of this. We're just coating it in that mixture. Now, I'll tell you about halloumi. Halloumi is curdled, if you like. The milk is curdled to make the cheese with rennet. Okay, they don't use any like lactic acid bacteria to do it. It's done with rennet, which is why, obviously, unless they've actually made it with non-animal rennet, if you like, that's why it's not vegan. Now we always come up to temperature, so what I'm going to do is, actually I'll say it's up to temperature. That didn't make much of a noise when I put that in there. Now it's starting to bubble around it a little bit. Now it's popular all throughout the eastern Mediterranean, halloumi. However, in 2013, the demand for halloumi was greatest, apart from in Cyprus, where it apparently originated from, might originate from. It essentially was the UK that surpassed all other countries, apart from Cyprus, for demand for halloumi. Right. Now this halloumi's been out of the fridge a little while. I think if it hadn't been, I would have been tempted not to put all of this in at once, because obviously it would lower the temperature of the oil. A couple of minutes to go and I've got to do another toss. At this second toss, if you want, you can add a bit more salt and pepper, but to be honest, I think especially this day and age with people, cutting back on things like salt, I think it should be, I think we leave it, and if you want to add a bit more salt, you can add it when you've got it on your plate. The English name halloumi is derived from the Greek, but ultimately it goes all the way back through Cypriot and Egyptian. Okay, so the fries have had their second toss. Okay, and I'm now just going to turn this halloumi over, and it is starting to look nice and brown. and caught the edge of the pan. I'm just testing the handle because of course it's all metal handle, and you suddenly ring, that might be hot. You can put this in the oven. Anyway, the halloumi, I was telling you about the origin of the word. It's also, oh, that's getting a bit soft, that one. I'm just going to say, it ain't really that melty. I don't know how well you can see that, I think you can. That is sort of, and that's just coming up for its third toss. That's when you're going to add, if you want any more seasoning, we're not. So, again, the word derives from the Coptic halom, although it's actually two words, halom, meaning Sadiq or whatever, and alom, which is barbaric or whatever, which is basically a word to describe cheese that was eaten in medieval Egypt. There's a 14th century recipe that talks about a halom, basically, which was a word for cheese. The earliest known written description of halloumi in Cyprus was recorded in the 16th century by Italian visitors to Cyprus. Whoops, missed it. So, I wouldn't say they're browning or looking at fried. So what I'm going to do, I'm doing render away. I'm just going to give them a little bit of a extra dusting of oil, and in that goes. But like I say, traditionally the Cypriot one, even if it did come from Egypt, the Cypriot one was sheep's and goat's milk. And it was also unpasteurised sheep's and goat. Now, while we're waiting on this all cooking, I'm going to take some of these buns and we're just going to slice them. Okay. So because they're small, although the wife will probably say, "Oh, I can only eat one. I can't eat all that." I'm going to cut up 4. So we're not toasting these or anything like that. We're just cutting them in half. Okay. Oh, it's off here. Like I say, it was traditionally made with unpasteurised milk, but obviously commercial. You can't get away with that with commercial cheese these days. So that is made with pasteurised sheep, goat, and cow's milk. There are 2 types of halloumi: fresh and mature. The fresh one is sort of semi-hard and milder, whereas the mature is a bit more salty because it's matured in brine. I think it's 40 days. And also it can be a bit minty because they add spearmint to it. For mature halloumi, like I said, I think it's got to be 40 days. So, they're coming up for doing. They're come up for doing. So now it's time to start preparing our burgers for serving. Right, we're all ready to start assembling, so I'm just going to take that off the heat, and I'm just going to take that cheese out, and we're going to put that onto some kitchen paper just to absorb the excess oil. I've actually got enough here for 8 mini burgers, if you like, because they're not huge ones. My fries are finished cooking, so we are literally at the point where we can start serving up. So I'm just going to shove that out of the way a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some salad leaves. Okay, we've just got some mixed leaves in here. Okay, put them on there, and then on top of that we're just going to put the halloumi. Now our gherkins are a little bit on the long side. I just discovered earlier, I thought I'd put what's name on the dishwasher, and I went to opened it up to get the a little fork out and discovered it was on. Right, so because of the size of these burgers, I'm just cutting that in half. Okay, so we're just going to add a couple of slices to that. Put that on top. And because obviously you need to taste it, don't I? I better do another one. So slice the burger. Oh, I forgot to put my ketchup on. Take that off. So a little bit of leaves. Like I say, you garnish, you can use whatever you like. Okay, and goes that. Take that slice of gherkin. Put that on there. And then we just want to add some of that spicy ketchup. On it goes. And now, oh, it's sweating like, isn't it? I've got a window open now. Oops, sliding off. Let's give this a taste. We've got the chewy, hot halloumi. We've got a semi-chewy outer of the bun. Haven't quite got to the sauce yet. That halloumi's delicious. I like halloumi anyway, just as it is. Oh, I'm getting a kick from the chilli now. But that is lush. Now I've still got my air fryer chips in there. So you might want to see them. There we go. There's my fries in there. Let's try one. Ooh, come on. Hot. Got the chewy outside, how it were. Or crisp rather, should I say, not chewy. Cooked through on the inside. Fucking hot. But they're not greasy like you might get. That's the air fryer for you. But there you go. Your halloumi, or rather your black ciabatta burgers with, if it's for me, not gonna lie, with air fryer fries. Ace meal. What's not to love? Well, the wife was saying, "Oh, don't eat the fries," but I will.